Salam Allah. Assalamu alaikum. Peace, peace, peace to the streets. I'm your brother in the struggle, Brother Minister Ali. And today, family, we're going to build in a cipher on some ancient but important teachings from Messenger Elijah Muhammad on Theology of Revelation, chapter 13. All of the spooky stuff, all the modern day hype, all of the technology that's being taught today, we're going to take y'all back. We're going to give you word for word the original divine and direct interpretation of prophecy on Revelation chapter 13 as taught by Messenger Elijah Muhammad. Now, in this particular book here, I wrote this book like 38 years ago. In fact, it's an old picture of me in here when I was a little teenager. I didn't even wear glasses back then. But I don't think that I grew hair on my face yet. But this book was originally printed in 1984. Then we republished it in 1990, third printing by Cam Incorporated in 1996 out of California. Now, to put this in context, my original attribute was given to me by Brother Minister Isan Samad from Muhammad's Temple number 66 in Jacksonville, Florida. Slave named Carl 17X Jackson. But Brother Minister Isan named me, back then everybody knew me as Brother Minister Elisha because I was born with the name Asha or Isha, the night prayer. And he basically was like, brother, Master Muhammad bless you with a double portion of the spirit of Elijah. So he named me Elisha Fard Muhammad. Okay. Now I'm just known as Ali. Or Khalid Alif Allah. Okay. Now, let me put this in context. Back in the 1980s, you had the first Sabbath Day was 1981 from the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan. Silis Muhammad stood up in 1978 before the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. So at that time, the Honorable Silis Muhammad was rebuilding Nation Islam when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was basically still with Imam Warfdeen Muhammad and basically like an Orthodox Muslim, a black Orthodox Muslim, if you will. But he and Brother Minister Jabril Muhammad would soon resurrect the Nation Islam as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And you basically had two major branches. So you had Silis Muhammad already teaching. You had the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan already teaching. I'm from Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, so we also got Brother Minister Jeremiah Shabazz in Philadelphia already teaching. Then you had, at the time, you had a lot of different strong ministers that was, I would say, independent. Now, there was actually a crack minister in Philadelphia known as Brother Minister Marvin Muhammad. He used to wear a cape. You had Silis Muhammad. Silis had a temple out South Philly back then. You had the Brothers in the Belly Beast, Brother Minister Eric 23X Belly is a pioneer in this thing. Unsung hero. Salute to the God. So you had Minister Farrakhan's minister Jamil Muhammad. Jamil was a young boy back in the day, fly fruit. He with the Gators, all that kind of stuff. So you had a lot of brothers that was hardworking, dedicated, and helping build this Nation Islam in different areas. So even though everyone wasn't the the exact same type of fruit. Like everybody wasn't with Silis, everybody wasn't with Farrakhan, everybody wasn't with Jeremiah. Everyone, back then you had the 5%ers, know what I mean? And they was this the 80s. This, I mean, nowadays it's commonly known as the Nation of Gods and Earths, but back in the day, we used to get the paper. I used to be in touch with G. Kaleem and all the gods out in New York. And they was 5%ers. They had the 5%er newspaper. They had the Son of Man, the Universal Truth. Now, I mean, you had a lot of pioneers in different eras. And me, I'm like just absorbing all this. I'm like 19 at the time, so I'm just absorbing everything. Now, I'm reading Muhammad Speaks from Jeremiah. I'm reading Muhammad Speaks from other ministers. At that time, Levi Kareem paper wasn't out yet. But you had other ministers with newsletters. You had Allah Speaks newsletters, Salam. It was just so much information, but it was a lot of Black, strong consciousness. I mean, coming from the Afrocentric community, what have you. And shout out to WHAT AM radio back in the 80s. Mary Mason, she used to bless me to speak on her program on weekends. She had this group she started called Electics. And she basically explained that Electics was like taking the best parts of different things. And the thing I loved about her, she passed physically, but, you know, thoughts of peace be upon her, but her legacy lives on. The thing that I loved that she was able to do was she would take and bring in, like, say, me as a minister of the Nation of Islam. At that time, Imam Isa was strong. Now, I mean, so you had the I don't even know which name it was going under at that time, but I know the Imam Isa literature. You know what I mean? FYs was studying his literature, 5% literature, Afrocentric, Dr. Diop, Sheikh Anthony Diop, Dr. Clark, Ivan Van Sertima, you name it. You know what I mean? If it was Black, we was with that. You know what I mean? You know, the sister Sherazade Ali was a legend. You know what I mean? So we trying to get knowledge of self, trying to understand self, trying to unite, trying to wake up, if you will, get that consciousness. So we was deep into the whole culture, if you will. You know what I mean? Mentally, physically, politically, militarily, economically, socially, educationally, judicially, you name it. We had a lot of strong brothers and sisters that was real folk. Even the music was like teaching the teachers back then. Now, I mean, you know, so shout out to like Poor Righteous Teachers and all of them. Now, I mean, you know, so we anything that was like conscious, like Kim Shabazz. Now, I mean, Paris. I mean, The Devil Made Me Do It. Now, I mean, all that stuff was like fire back then. Now, I mean, you know, nowadays it's more about the money and, you know what I mean, the politics in it. Rappers killing rappers now. Now, I mean, it was just a different genre, a different language, a different energy they was projecting. So we was about Black unity and building more. Now, I mean, we had our stupid parts. We had our ignorance still. We still had our divide and conquer stuff that we had to deal with. But we was getting a lot more vitamins and nutrients, you know what I mean, in our spiritual diet and literal diets that helped us in that struggle. So my thing was, I always had something, Allah put something in my heart from when I was just a youngster and the teachers I don't even know how it just was in me. I mean, but I always was trying to get the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Honorable Brother Minister Silis Muhammad to unite. I mean, we went through a lot behind the scenes about that kind of stuff. We really was serious about trying to get them to unite. I mean, it was in the belly of the beast. We united the followers of Silis and the followers of Farrakhan. Now, that part we was extremely successful with. We was united for 30, 40 years now. I mean, you know, so that's one good thing that we was able to do. We did have unity. I mean, like, if we get blessed with some services, I would explain to any guests coming in, listen, I know you follow Silis. I know you follow just the messenger teachings, you 5%, whatever. Our thing is, if you don't have something positive to say about Farrakhan or Silis or the Father or whatever, don't say anything. We're about adding and multiplying, not dividing, subtracting. Now, I mean, so we was real serious and real strict about keeping that unity going. Now, I mean, our things like, if you don't want to do it, you want to debate and all that, you can go. We're not here to debate. We're not here to fight, argue, and kill each other. Now, I mean, you know, but the you know, so Mary Mason, the electric seminar, she would bring in, say, an Afrocentric teacher, Hebrew Israelite, a Moor, he's known doctor. His name, he's known from different names back then. But at that time, what was they called? They was I forgot. This is like the 80s. They was financially building out West Philadelphia back then, like building. They was doing the messenger program, like literally, like real estate businesses, clothing, publishing books, you name it. Now, I mean, they was pushing the program real strong. Now, I mean, they was Ansars, the Ansar community back then. Now, I mean, that's what they was known as, the Ansars back then, I believe. Anyway, it's different times they came with different names, but primarily back then it was like the Ansar movement. You had Silas Muhammad publishing Muhammad Speaks newspaper. Silas used to be dropping some deep Jews. Now, I mean, you know, so you got all this stuff going on, but at the same time, we got the angels of Allah doing their thing. So we trying to take counsel like, listen, we gotta rebuild this nation. We got to get this thing off the ground. You know what I mean? Because people don't understand back then, Imam Warfdeen Muhammad, Down Balaj Muhammad's son, who basically dismantled the Nation of Islam, got rid of the lessons and stopped teaching that Master Muhammad's law and Down Balaj on his message. He was like the biggest fish in the pond at the time. He was the richest, the strongest, the most known. He had the most followers. I mean, in Philadelphia, Farrakhan didn't have no temple in Philadelphia. They had study groups. You might get 5 to 15 people together. I mean, but it wasn't no temples, number 12 and none of that kind. All that stuff came later. You know what I mean? So we were literally poor, righteous teachers. We was poor, but we was righteous and we was teaching. Now, I mean, we were 5% for real. Now, I mean, so in that era, you had conversations and meetings. Now, I mean, like the Honorable Minister Farrakhan would meet up with Silas and things just won't go right. Now, I mean, you know, he felt as though he's being ambushed, or he out Jeremiah there. Back then you had the Council of Elders. Now, I mean, it was just a lot of politics involved and from my perspective and understanding. And they wanted to unite. They was trying to unite, but it was always something like to just come in and like disrupt it. But at the same time, the good thing was they operated with respect and brotherhood. And I mean, they had operational unity. Now, I mean, but the each, you know, they had to move according to that level of understanding what the law put in their heart. Now, I mean, and you know, Silas used to publish articles against the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. You know what I mean? And he basically was like going into the beast. So now we you know, you got different ministers teaching. Farrakhan teaching certain things, Silas teaching certain things. So you got different brothers teaching this thing. And I'm on the tip, like, I love Farrakhan and I love Silas and I love Jeremiah Shabazz. So I'm like, I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, some of the language was a little harsh. Now, I mean, so that's, you know, a lot of things. So my thing was like, what is it that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us? Now, I mean, so I used to, behind the scenes, get with brothers and sisters and ministers and private soldiers on the messenger's interpretation of things. Now, I mean, so we're not hear certain arguments, I'm like, that's not what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught. Know what I mean? So my thing was like, okay, let me get the messenger's message out there in this age of mess. Know what I mean? And that's how this book came about. When I wrote this book actually was a letter I sent to Silis Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, going into the messenger's teachings on theology of Revelation chapter 13 on Malcolm X and his son Wallace D. Muhammad, or Imam Worth D. Muhammad as became known. And the two presidents that the messenger taught about how one power rose from land, the other power is going to rise from the sea, and how in the end the angel going to come and put one foot on the land and one foot on the sea. Now I mean, and spark the atmosphere for 12 miles high. So we have a deep spiritual science here. You know what I mean? I dedicated the book with this opening here. Dedication to the true believers in the teachings of our teacher, Messenger Elijah Muhammad. May we all beat the old prophet's prediction by making the message of our only messenger, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, plain, that a fool can understand it. Our Savior raised his messenger to raise us. We were and are a people with many problems. Yet Allah in person, Master Muhammad, left us with the problem book, which reads in part, quote, one of the prophets in early days said, the lost foundation of Islam, numbering 144,000, will be the stars and will return to their original land. And the balance, he said, are poisoned and rusty and will not take the knowledge of their own. But the messenger and his laborers do not agree with the old prophet in his modern time. He thinks that he will remove all poison and rust from every one of the 17 million. At the same time, he desires for every one of you students to help solve this problem, since you have learned the time, accomplishment, and old prophet's number, 144,000. The problem book number 32 by our Savior, W.D. Farr, Allah in person. Let us be like our Savior and learn all we can from all we can, and put the truth into practice and raise the mentally dead by the thousands. The time is at hand. Okay. I'm not going to go into the whole book, but I'm going to, I'll put a link in here. If you like to order the book, I'll have a link somewhere in here for you. You can just download it or something, the ebook. All right. But I am going to read to you the opening memorandum that went to the Honorable Minister Farrakhan and Silis Muhammad on February the 2nd of 1984. The following letter was mailed to Brother Silis and Farrakhan, the two most outstanding ministers of Messenger Elijah Muhammad and the Lost Foundation of Islam in the West. In the name of Allah, God, who came in the person of the Master Farrakhan Muhammad, to whom royal praises are due forever, and in the name of his first, last, and only messenger, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I greet you, the spiritual heads of state, in the language of the angels of the new Islam. Assalamu alaikum. Peace, God. To two black kings of justice, by your little brother, Elisha Farrakhan Muhammad, AA. Subject, the division. Time, 12:19. Date, 2/2/84. Regarding Savior's Day. May you both be safe and well and focus on the total liberation of our oppressed people. And may your spiritual and biological family be in the best of health, mentally and physically. Sirs, I realize that you are both very busy, so I will be brief and to the point. It is the realistic prayer of we the Muslims that you both join together for this coming Savior's Day event. Messenger Elijah Muhammad teaches us that in unity we can accomplish much, and that a house divided cannot stand. We were warned that it was the teachings of Dr. Yaqub Shabazz that taught his people, the human devil's white race, to start he say, she say. This negative system of hadiths calls brother to hate brother, and family to leave family, and to speak ill of each other. I am enclosing a brief essay regarding who was and who is the beast, mentioned in the Bible's book of Revelation, chapter 13. As instructed, we will keep a law on this messenger out front. Signed, Elisha. The Theology of Revelation chapter 13 by Elisha Farrakhan Muhammad, A.A. Master Farrakhan Muhammad, to whom all praises are due forever, revealed that the book of Revelation is actually the vision granted to Dr. Yaqub Malik Shabazz while on the Isle of Patmos, Revelation chapter 1, verse 9. Let us see what he saw. Keep in mind that the original cycle lasted for 35,000 years and not 25,000 years as we use today. The leaders of the tribe Shabazz, 24 black men, wrote history as it is called a year to each mile of our planet, Asia. Of course, the planet was blasted away from the sun, thus she is actually 78 trillion years old, according to only messenger Elijah Muhammad. However, we did not build enough pre-cells to produce our bodies until 2 trillion years later. Thus, the planet is 76 trillion years old, the physical men and women, or the black nation. Since we did not begin to record history for 25,000 years until after the moon was blasted away from this planet some 66 trillion years ago, then we only recorded history for 35,000 years for 10 trillion years. Supreme angels, please pay attention. The 35,000 year cycle was written a year to each mile of the planet for 10 trillion years. Thus, we wrote the 35,000 year cipher of history 285,714,285.7 times in the 10 trillion years from 76 trillion years to 66 trillion years. We recorded the work of the entire universe of light. There was nothing and no one to do this for us. We were God enough to do it ourselves. We searched not just the border of our universe, which is 230 continuous 640 quadrillion miles, but we searched every square mile of our universe, which covered 5.69490496, equal to 5.96469490496 to the 40th power square miles. Not once did we find a scripture from an unseen only God. Thus, it is a historical and natural and logical fact that the book of Revelation was conceived and the brain and the hands, mouth, eyes, and ears and feet worked to bring it into reality. Of course, the pure truth of Dr. Yaqub is and shall be tampered with. Thus, the power of change is now in the brains of the FOI and MGT GCC. Messenger Elijah Muhammad teaches us when we read a book, we must ask, what did the author have in mind? Of course, we know the author is Dr. Yaqub, and we understand his pathology. All scriptures have a particular and general intent. Revelation chapter 13 particularizes the European and American governments and the many wicked leaders that ruled and are ruling and shall rule. Before we enter the water of the truth of Revelation chapter 13, please keep in mind that reality speaks for itself when it is spoken. Truth reaches into your very nature. It branches and thickens the roots of the brain cells. So I request what our teacher asks of those of old. Quote, I hope you will agree with me on the truth of the vision that John Yaqub saw concerning the final war between his people, the white race, and the people of God, the black nation. The Revelation beast, Revelation chapter 17, verse 8, by messenger Elijah Muhammad. Now, I'm going to give you some quotes directly from the messenger. The messenger is going to explain the two beasts. Now, these two beasts, keep in mind, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when he's physically alive, he's seen or witnessing, listening to the radio and seeing on TV the two beasts in the newspaper, in prophecy, being made manifest. Okay. The messenger says this, quote, this beast, meaning a people, was already in existence before this one that shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and is in power in Europe and Asia. This actually refers to all European white powers who are over the world of the black, brown, yellow, and red nation. When she, America, was found, she was a place of woods and plains, with unintelligent people living and roaming over her four sides. Now she has become a wilderness of sin, a place of disorder, complexity, the bottomless pit, abysmal, unfathomable, deep as the sea. The wickedness of America cannot be measured or weighed or sounded out. Her evil is ever on the increase. She used to think that the two oceans, Pacific and Atlantic, were her security against a foreign enemy attack until better navies and air power were built. It is a different story today. The beast is to rise out of the bottomless pit of evil to increase it and bring about her doom. The beast that we have under discussion is the ruler, the presidents of a people. The messenger teaches, the original teaches, the messenger said, the beast that we have under discussion is the ruler, the presidents of a people. The Revelation beast, Revelation chapter 17, verse 8. Now, with this spiritual backdrop and historical manifestation, it should be clear who the beasts of Revelation chapter 13 refer to. The exact words of only messenger Elijah Muhammad is this. Now listen up, family. This is the messenger's old teachings. I'm going to read it word for word. The messenger said, Franklin Delano Roosevelt and his successors fulfilled to the very letter the prophecy of the work of deceiving and forcing all to cast their allegiance, receive his mark. For America, under the National Recovery Act in Chapter 13, Mr. Roosevelt was a Navy man. His power rose up in the sea. His Navy quickly healed the wound received at Pearl Harbor. His successor, Mr. Truman, a farmer, power rose up on land, was seen coming out of the earth, and was responsible for the dropping of the first atomic bomb on an Asiatic nation, and frightened the whole world, and the nations began to say, who is able to make war with him? Revelation chapter 13, verse 4. The Revelation beast, Revelation chapter 17, verse 8, by messenger Elijah Muhammad. Okay, let's pause there for a minute. The messenger is saying here, Franklin Delano Roosevelt and his successors, meaning the president that came after him, fulfilled to the very letter as far as this prophecy in Revelation. When you read about the beast, one beast power is going to rise up on land, another beast power rise up on water. So here you have water, and here you have a president that the message is saying is like a beast. Here you have another president whose power rose up from the land. He was a farmer, and the message say that this farmer or this president is fulfilling this prophecy about this other beast. Okay, so Franklin Delano Roosevelt and successors fulfilled to the very letter the prophecy of the work of deceiving and forcing all to cast their allegiance, receive his mark. For America, under the National Recovery Act, under the National Recovery, see, these is the guys that came up with the Social Security system, your Social Security numbers, or the mark of the beast, and the 666, as a lot of people get into. And his successor, Mr. Truman, was a farmer. His power rose up on the land. And they are the ones that fought in the wars. Okay, so you have World War I, World War II. You have America defending her borders with the power of her Navy, with the power of the atomic bomb over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, or over being used on Nippon or Japan, if you will. So here you got a government that imported and incorporated a Jew, Albert Einstein, who was a mathematician, and he understood the science and studied the atom. And they was like, okay, this dude could teach us. He could take this atomic bomb technology to the next level. And, you know, if we could get our planes to drop these bombs, as opposed to having a long, drawn-out war like World War I, with they trying to get up on the beaches and many Americans losing their lives, we like, listen, we could just drop this bomb and literally melt, as the Bible says, men's eyes would melt in their sockets. That's what type of heat that atomic technology brought about. And now they have a new technology. They have nuclear. They now have satellite stations that Ronald Reagan came in and decimated the black community and filled it up with drugs such as crack. And they took the money and built a city in space. I mean, they went on the moon and had different nations come in, and they literally built a little way station where they was like, okay, let's take and absorb water from the asteroids. Let's use greenhouses and solar panels to grow tomatoes and soybeans, and let's make a hamburger and a drink right here on the moon. This is the technology these devils already did. So they already are planning to terraform other planets. They plan on building cities on Mars and all that kind of stuff. But they already did it on the moon. They already did it 6 miles above the Earth's atmosphere, troposphere, stratosphere, ionosphere, exosphere. So they did it. Our atmosphere, our space is only 6 miles high. It looks far, but it's only 6 miles high, actually. So that power of these two beasts is real, according to Messenger Elijah Muhammad. I mean, now, the messenger explained to us about the angels. He said, I went on page number 4. The Master Farrakhan Muhammad, Allah and thought, is clear who and what nation fits the knowledge of Revelation chapter 13. He says, teach the messenger, it's America. You know what I mean? Surely it is better to not know the truth than to misunderstand the truth once it comes. Of course, there are people who would not understand an angel of Allah if they shook his hand. This is due to the iconography set up by the beast or white race. Angels are not seen when you physically die. Messenger Elijah Muhammad said this, I'm going to quote him. Live right, think right, eat right, and do right. You will not have to die to go to heaven to be like angels. You will be like them while you live. How to Eat to Live, Book 1, page 44, by Messenger Elijah Muhammad. So the messenger teaches us, he said, you don't have to physically die. You know what I mean? Have some white angels come out your back and float around in space. That's the spooky stuff. That's the iconography. That's how they paint. Back then, a lot of people couldn't read. They couldn't transliterate and translate the Bible or the Torah. They didn't know Hebrew and Aramaic and Latin and Greek and Arabic and all that. So they had the 10%ers, the priesthood, the imams, the reverends, the rabbis, the gurus, the ministers, teaching them the teachings. Instead of them getting it from the direct source from the book, they was getting it from middlemen, and they was the middlemen. They was like, in order to get to God, you got to come through this Pope. And that's where the problems came about. That's how the 85% got easily leading to the wrong direction. So the message is like, listen, even though you see all these statues of these angels and all, these like those spooky angels, that's not the angels. You know what I mean? All that they seen, the angel statue crying and Mary and a piece of toast and Jesus in the tomato and all that. It's all this pseudoscience stuff. The messenger said, no, live right, think right, eat right, and do right. You will not have to die to go to heaven to be like angels. You will be like them while you live. The message teaches heaven and hell is nothing but conditions of life. Heaven in the nation of Islam is peace of mind and contentment, money, good homes, friendships in all walks of life. That's the type of heaven that the brothers in the East want to see you with. They wanted, the problem book number 13 is like, no, the angels ain't going to come fly, pick you up and take you to heaven. The mother plane ain't come to pick you up and take you to heaven. Master Muhammad said, the problem, your brothers in the East want to know, what is you doing for yourself? Now, I mean, set yourself, the Master Muhammad said, set yourself in heaven at once. Peace of mind and contentment, money, good homes, and friendships in all walks of life. Use your God wisdom to get riches, to make it happen. Now, I mean, that's how it goes about. That's how it comes about. Now, I mean, page number 5. Thus, angels are not in space on top of the nimbus, stratus, cirrus, or cumulus clouds. They are in spiritual water, totally baptized in the truth. The messenger says this, quote, Revelation chapter 14, verse 6 and 7, the angel that the prophet saw fly in the midst of heaven is not to be taken as a spirit being, for Allah has taught me that this angel is a human being flying in an airplane with a mission to give the people the last warnings, which will be in small pamphlet form. beast, that old serpent, the devil and Satan, Revelation chapter 18, verse 4, by messenger Elijah Muhammad. So here the message is saying, now I mean, the revelations that you're going to get is not going to come from some spooky angels in the sky. It's going to be in small booklet forms. I mean, teaching you the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of yourself. Okay? So, in the original language, the beast is al-Hayya in Arabic, and actually points to the nature of the grafted snakes. Some are poisonous, others are not. Some squeeze with great pressure. Others appear to be deadly, but are cowards by nature. Some are beautiful and deadly. Others rattle before they strike. Others just strike. All of them are cold-blooded. What a beautiful and mathematical sign to write the workings of the devil, that old serpent, under. Surely the original people wrote the truth of Dr. Yaku's vision was sure. I am aware of your spiritual view, beloved brother Minister Silis Muhammad, in regards to the beast of Revelation chapter 13, be a sign of the works of Wallace D. Muhammad, the blood son of only messenger Elijah Muhammad, and beloved brother international representative Louis Farrakhan. I too do not believe that the messenger, Kareem Abdul Muhammad, meaning Elijah Muhammad, will return physically, nor do I look to the Master Farad Muhammad, Allah in person, to whom all royal praises are due forever, to return physically. Messenger Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the physical is the first and lowest dimension of thought. It is the weakest and lowest. The Master Mahdi warned, quote, and pursue not that of which thou hast no knowledge. Holy Quran, chapter 17, verse 36 in part. I explained to Silas, but I do differ in thought that Farrakhan is a, quote, false prophet. Now, back in the early 80s, Silas Muhammad was advocating that the Honorable Minister Farrakhan was a false prophet. And a lot of people believe that to this very day. And I respect anyone's belief. But when I study the scriptures, the prophecies, you know what I mean? And when you look at Aaron or Harun in Arabic, he's really not the one that made the golden calf. That don't exclude Farrakhan not going with Imam Wafdi Muhammad and worshiping the mystery God and all that, because the prophecy says that he did tell the people to take off their necklaces and bracelets and anklets, and he did polish. They needed him to polish it up. I mean, to clean that spooky false god up. But Imam Wafdi Muhammad, Sumerian prophecy, he's the one that always was like contending with Moses and Aaron. Now, I mean, so you have two in prophecy. Before Wallace, you had Malcolm X that's going to rise up against the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and challenge the messenger teachings and want the crown of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So the prophecy is going to tell us about these men of renown in the temple of God that are going to look like a lamb. They look like the messenger, look like they teach the message, but they speak like a dragon. So it's a deep science here that this book goes into that I'm not going to be able to cover the whole thing. Now, I mean, but Master Muhammad told us, and pursue not that of which thou hast no knowledge. See, belief, you can believe anything, but we shouldn't pursue that which we have no knowledge. Holy Quran, chapter 17, verse 36. So 38 years ago, I differed with my beloved brother Silis Muhammad that Farrakhan was a false prophet, and I held that position ever since. But I don't agree with the Honorable Minister Farrakhan that the Honorable Elijah. Back then, keep in mind, this is the 80s. In the 80s, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan was teaching that the Honorable Elijah was coming back in 1985. So Silas had something when he was like, oh, 1985, he's a false prophet. The messenger didn't come back. You know what I mean? And they still believe that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was coming back, but another date, somewhere in the future, they still believe that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad coming back. I don't believe the Honorable Elijah Muhammad coming back, but I don't believe that the Honorable Minister Farrakhan is a false prophet. You know what I mean? So this is the drama that was taking place behind the scenes and trying to get them to unite, though they had these serious different ideologies, different opinions, different interpretations of the messenger's message in this age of mess. Okay, so I'm going to quote in bold letters, these are the messenger parts. I'm really just want to give you the messenger's message, really. All right. Messenger Elijah Muhammad warned us that his people misunderstood the real meaning, so we must give the interpretation that Allah gave directly to him through him. The messenger said, this is what I was doing. I was giving Farrakhan and Silis the original divine and direct messenger's message to help God through this age of mess. All right, 1984. The messenger explained this in Message to the Black Man in America, page number 124, 1965. This beast that is spoken of in the prophecy of the first book of the Bible called Revelation and has and still is being much misunderstood by my people. So here the message explained that the prophecies are being misunderstood. Now, I mean, like we can have knowledge of something, we can articulate, have wisdom of it, but the understanding of what we're reading can not be accurate, if you will. Now, I mean, so the message explained that this beast that is spoken of in the prophecy of the first book of the Bible called Revelation, don't let that slip by you. The first book of the Bible, according to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is not the book of Genesis. The first book of the Bible, according to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teachings, is the book of Revelation. Revelation is from John or Dr. Yaqub Malik Shabazz on the island of Pelan or Patmos. That's 2,000 years before Genesis or the prophet Moses getting his books and coming to teach the devils, or prophet Abraham coming 500 years before him, or Nimrod coming and breaking his cycle by 300 years. So it's a whole science into all of that I can't get into in one video. That's a scholarly science that we cover in the literature. All right. Let me read something else from Message to the Black Man on page 126. The messenger says, first, in the book, I say, with this divine principle, let's review the history of the nation of Islam as your little brother submits this elementary thought. Of course, there's no confusion as to the real identity of the beast. We will look at a general view by keeping the message of the messenger out front. The messenger said, quote, they, white race, are the people described as beasts in the revelation of the Bible. Study them and their history and dealings with people, and you will, without hesitation, agree with me 100% that these are the people meant by the Revelator who foresaw their future and end and wrote it while he and his followers were in exile from the Holy Land 6,000 years ago on the island of Pelan in the Aegean Sea, where he grafted the present white race. The revelation is claimed by the Christians to have been given to a Saint John Divine, who is a follower of Jesus. But this is erroneous and wrong. It is by the father of the white race, Mr. Yaqub or Jacob. The people other than the beast are mentioned as worshipers of the beast, and they, the people of the darker nation, worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. The power given by the dragon to the beast refers to a higher wisdom and knowledge of the time and wise preparedness. The chief head and spiritual guidance of the white race is the Pope of Rome. Message to the Black Man in America, page 126 by Messenger Elijah Muhammad. So here, the messenger is showing you like, okay, we got these two beasts, one rising from land and water, two presidents of the United States, but you also have this dragon that drags you off of the Mount of Prosperity, or drag you off of the path of truth and righteousness, or drag you off of the Sirat al-Mustaqim, or the straight path. And this dragon, the messenger teaches us, is actually the Pope of Rome. Okay, now, the Bible says in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10, verse 17 to 19, for the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, a great God, a mighty and a terrible, which regardeth not persons, nor taketh reward. He doeth execute the judgment of the fatherless and widow, and loveth the stranger, and giveth him food and raiment. Love ye therefore the stranger, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. Bible, Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10, verses 17 through 19. The admonishment to love the strangers repeated in the New Testament also. It says in the Bible, Hebrews chapter 13, verse 1 through 3. Let brotherly love continue. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. Remember them that are in bonds, as bound with them, and them which suffered adversity, as being yourselves also in the body. Messenger Elijah Muhammad made plain that the first beast was former President Roosevelt, who generated his power and force from the water because he was a Navy man. The second beast was the next president, Mr. Truman, who was a farmer and dropped the first atomic bomb on the Asiatic nation. In the next chapter, Revelation chapter 14, the messenger gathers his followers on an independent shore. In the next chapter, Revelation chapter 15, the angels go to work. Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 says this. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. Dr. Yaqub stood upon the sand. There's no life in the sand, for he did not have his own power of vision, but it was given to him. Messenger Elijah Muhammad teaches us the 24 scientists wrote of Dr. Yaqub and his idea 8,400 years before he was born. Yaqub did not know what we did not know. We, the black nation, taught Yaqub in our schools, from our books and our teachers. Out of the sea, meaning the truth, of the nation of Islam rose a beast, Malcolm X, who had power of all 7 mind planes or dimensions: the physical, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, the soul, the self, the will. In mathematics, 10 means completion, just as 9 means born. Any integer after 9 is completed and enters into another realm, e.g., for example, 9, 10, 99, 100, 999, 1000, etc. The nation of Islam see with 10 horns complete power and 10 crowns complete authority as the national spokesman for Messenger Elijah Muhammad. Yet during his fall, his thoughts, mind dimensions, was full of blasphemy against the law of God who came in the person of Master Muhammad, to whom all praise are due forever, and his only messenger, Elijah Muhammad. So Malcolm was one renowned in the temple. Malcolm loved Master Muhammad. He loved the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Of course, COINTELPRO forces was working within and without the nation of Islam to divide and conquer, using Dr. Yaqub's teachings or Dr. Yaqub's law of divide and conquer to disrupt and dismantle and confuse the believers and try to make the true believers become disbelievers. So, Revelation chapter 13, verse 2 says, And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him power and his seat and great authority. Revelation chapter 13, verse number 2. The science of this verse is plain if viewed by the teachings of our teacher, Messenger Elijah Muhammad. Leo or leopard, bear, and dragon are not just fixed stars in the galaxy, but also in the nation of Islam. Naturally, Malcolm was not a physical leopard, but the nature of the said is a near perfect description of his works. The first beast was fulfilled by Malcolm, who was like a black panther in that he looked and sounded like the originals. A panther is a leopard and a leopard is a panther. They are the same in the feline family. Feline comes from felinus in Latin and felis in French, which means or relates to cats or their kin, or a sly or treacherous or stealthy person. Thus, Revelation chapter 13, verse 2 shows us a black man who did rise up from the sea, nation of Islam. He, Malcolm, had a strong foundation in the nation of Islam, feet like a bear, and he had a gift of leadership, mouth of a lion. Malcolm received his fame and power from the Christian media, the covert angels of the Pope of Rome. The dragon gave him his power. And his seat or throne and great coverage to influence and deceive the people to follow him, Malcolm, and not the last and greatest messenger of Allah in person, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Revelation chapter 13, verse 3 goes on to say, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Malcolm Little ended the cipher of scriptures, and just as Korah rose against the messenger Moses, the Bible says this about Malcolm in the book of Numbers, chapter 16, verses 1 to 3. Now Korah, meaning Malcolm, the son of Israel, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, and Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eli and On, the son of Peleth, the sons of Reuben, took men. And they rose up before Moses, meaning messenger Elijah Muhammad, with certain of the children of Israel, talking about FYs and MGTs, 250 princes of the assembly, famous in the congregation, men of renown, and they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron, meaning that ministers, captains, and secretaries around the nation of Islam, FOIs and MGTs, became divided. When the devil spit that flood of propaganda out, a lot of FOIs and MGTs, oh, the messenger, he messing with the children, he messing with the women, the MGTs getting them pregnant, is they his children or not? So that controversy allowed disbelief to creep into him. Wallace, his son, and Malcolm fed that. Know what I mean? And the people began to murmur. So envy and jealousy start coming up. Then people start looking like, I should be in charge. I could take over the messenger program. I should have his crown. I could wear his shoes. Know what I mean? Now, they were famous in the congregation, men of renown, and they gathered themselves together against Moses and Aaron, and said unto them, ye take too much upon you, seeing all the congregation are holy. Man, we all guys, why you gotta be all in charge and this, that, and the other? I should be in charge. I'm holier than thou. Okay? Every one of them, and the Lord is among them, wherefore they lift ye up yourselves above the congregation of the Lord. When we look at the history of the nation of Islam, we see that a modern Korah began to show the same signs of envy. It is with merit that Messenger Elijah Muhammad, in answer to a question regarding 3 of his followers, who were all princes of the assembly, meaning the nation of Islam, and all 3 were famous in the congregation, men, not women, of renown. The messenger says this in Message to the Black Man. Question, 1965, Message to the Black Man, pages 307 to 308. Question, well now, if in time, sir, your grandson Sharif or your son Wallace or Malcolm ever expressed the desire to return to follow you again, would you accept them? Answer, the messenger says this word for word. There is nothing unforgivable, the Holy Quran teaches you. The only thing that is unforgivable is this, that you will not accept Allah as God and not accept his messenger as his messenger. These 2 things are one. We say the belief in Allah is the belief in the messenger of the prophet of Allah. The belief in the messenger or the prophet of Allah is a belief in Allah. If you disbelieve in one, you disbelieve in both. You cannot believe in one and disbelieve in the other. This is the knowledge the world has not realized, and this is what God wants the world to know. When God chooses his representative for the people, he speaks to the people through that representative. And if the people will accept that representative, we call them prophets, apostles, or messengers. Then they are accepting Allah. But if they reject him and still say they believe in Allah, they are considered enemies of Allah and disbelievers, because that is Allah and that representative. And you cannot accept one without accepting the other. You have got to accept both. You cannot get the blessings of Allah if you reject his messenger. Now, these boys that you were referring to, they do not worry me. I do not give my time arguing with them or talking about them or talking about why they believe or disbelieve. I do not even argue with them because I knew these things in the beginning. I knew they would act like this, some of them. I was told about this 34 years ago. Now, let's look at this in context. Message to the black man. The messenger is saying he knew about his son Wallace and Malcolm 34 years ago. 1965? You knew about them 34, meaning in 1930, when he met Master Master Muhammad gave him a Holy Quran, explained to him, listen, these people in this Quran, these hypocrites that's going to rise up against you, you got to understand it so they won't be able to kill you. I mean, envy and jealousy is something. I mean, so the messenger knew, he's putting people on the stage and observing how they mathematically move. They going to fly or die. Know what I mean? And he's watching how they move. Know what I mean? So he like, okay. Well, everybody, oh, Malcolm, he's just that. He'll never lead a messenger. Imam Mufti Muhammad, he speaks Arabic. Oh, he went to Al-Azhar. He'll never lead a messenger. Oh, Mr. Farrakhan would never lead an. Everybody was looking at it like, but the angels of Allah is like, prophecy got to be fulfilled. So Master Muhammad, the messenger, the angels on the mother plane, they're fully aware of what is going to transpire before it even took place. So the messenger knew. He didn't know all of the particulars, how they would cross that T's and dot their I's. But the prophecy, he knew, if I'm reading in this Bible about Moses and Aaron and people getting jealous of them, if I'm reading about Jesus and Peter and some Judas is at the table and Peter going to deny his Lord thrice before the cock crows twice, and then this young boy running from prison to prison, teaching these teachings and writing all this literature. He's like, this stuff is going to come about. So he writing in his books like, listen, don't be like Peter, be like Paul. It's a science here that we have to understand if we want to be in the same vibration as the Supreme Allah God who came to person Master Muhammad, to whom all praises are due forever. So the messenger said, I was told about this 34 years ago. They did not know these things, and I am not excited as the public would be or as the public would like to see. In some cases, if the son disbelieves in his father must be wrong. But that is not so when it comes to a messenger of God. If we say that is true, then it stands true in the common life of the family. There are some children who never sincerely accept their father as they should. There are some fathers who never accept their children as they should. So this is the nature of the human family of the earth. And when it comes to spiritual teachings, it is also the same. Not all of the family of the messenger are such as Noah and Lot. They do not always have true believers, but that did not detract one atom from his messengership. You do not take advantage of that unless you get into war or trouble with God. You do not say, I do not believe in him because his own wife or his own son does not. Why should I follow him? You will be getting yourself in trouble because that is given. I do not care anything about those who fall away from me after I have pointed out the truth to them. And despite this, they get wrong and go away from that truth. I am not responsible for this. For whatever they say against me, it is against themselves. What they preach and tell the people in order to get the people to believe in me is much like Absalom and his father David. Absalom stole the affection of the people because he thought he looked better and younger than David. He thought, therefore, the people would follow, that he could steal the people over to himself and get rid of his father as king and be king himself. But he was not to be king. The man that was to be king had yet to be known. That was Solomon. These facts are put there to deepen our knowledge, and time repeats these things over again and again. And so this is what we face today, and I am not surprised, the public is surprised, some of them, at the deviation of Malcolm or my son Wallace. I am not surprised, but they cannot yet say that I am not the messenger of Allah. They cannot take that away from me. Message to the Black Man in America, page 307 and 308 by Messenger Elijah Muhammad. Revelation chapter 13, verse 4 goes on to say, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Revelation chapter 13, verse 4. Malcolm was the Sandman who rocked the people back to sleep mentally. And it was he who paved the way for the second beast. He claimed to be friends with the devils and spoke a principle that mixed truth with falsehood, Christianity with Islam equated to Muslimanity or spiritual insanity. In his autobiography of Malcolm X, as told to Alex Haley on page number 297, Malcolm said this: "Always Wallace and I had shared an exceptional closeness and trust." So Malcolm explained in his biography that him and Imam Wafdi Muhammad always was real tight, okay? So if Wallace went against the messenger, Malcolm, listening to Wallace, Malcolm originally loved the messenger, but Wallace is causing dissension in the ranks, so he's listening to Wallace like, what, your dad did, what? Oh man, we got to expose, we got to destroy that. And they thought they knew better than Allah and his messenger. So they rose up against Allah and his messenger in the temple of Allah and his messenger and tried to get the believers to come to them. So Malcolm formed the Organization of African American Unity. He formed his own thing, which the messenger considered bloodbath teachers. That's just like, listen, that stuff ain't gonna work. I mean, and Wallace tried to do orthodox stuff. Messenger like, we come with a new Islam, that stuff ain't gonna work. So the messenger knew they was gonna do what they did, but he also knew that they was building their kingdom on sand, that it was gonna sink. It's not gonna work. Where his teachings is gonna last 100, a million, a billion, a trillion, a quadrillion, a quintillion, a sextillion, eternally, okay? So Malcolm said, always Wallace and I had shared an exceptional closeness and trust. Then he said this on page 334 of his biography: "But in the Muslim world, I have seen that men with white complexions were more genuinely brotherly than anyone else had ever been. That morning was the start of a radical alteration in my whole outlook about white men." The autobiography of Malcolm X, page 334. Now, of course, you know, those of you that understand Hajj, now I mean, making pilgrimage. In fact, I had some footage that I'm gonna share with y'all, basically showing the poor Muslim, pitch black man that make pilgrimage from South Africa, Zania, is going to experience racism during the Hajj. Like, niggas, y'all all in the back. I mean, the wealthy, rich white people, they in beautiful tents. These jokers got ice cold lemonade, beautiful carpet. They got mattresses. Now, the poor people, y'all on the floor. These is all pilgrimages. Even a white woman, she's going to explain like, yo, it's sexist out this joint. I'm making Hajj, and she's a tall, blonde-haired, nice-looking white woman. They cracking on her doing Hajj. I mean, you know, so it's nothing spooky about human nature. Now, I mean, people, so Malcolm going over there seeing white Muslims, the message is like, we always had, the message taught us, we always had, Master Muhammad mother's a white Muslim. Now, I mean, his thing is like, we had a whole country over there, the Turks. He said, you know, good done by any person has his reward. He said there are thousands of white Muslims of faith, and they're going to enter into their own hereafter. Allah going to bless them. Now, I mean, so the Nation of Islam always knew about white Muslims, we never taught racism and all that. The messenger teaches us the worst devil is the black man with knowledge of himself working for the white man. Not the white man, not the clan, those house Negroes, as they're known. They're the worst enemy to our people's rise, okay? So Malcolm's saying that he was trying to get a political base, if you will. Now, I mean, you know, it's like, you know, he had to get with the civil rights people. He trying to get the money, all this stuff about the Honorable Muhammad, brother, the FOI, the captain, firebombed his house. They forget Malcolm and Sister Betty Shabazz, they got locked up for that. They was the ones that was charged with the arson. The wick was found in his basement. It's a lot of stuff that the message like, listen, the house is owned by the nation. Why am I firebomb my property for? It's like, just because I differ with a hypocrite, the message thing, we don't kill hypocrites. He definitely ain't trying to kill his beloved wife and his children and them. It's like, yeah, we theologically beef and we have differences. Now, I mean, but COINTELPRO agents in the ranks and outside the ranks was manipulating the situation. Now, I mean, so you have people whispering evil suggestions and making firm resolutions. That's what the devils do. They sow seeds of dissension, like, oh, that joker, this, that. They backbite us. I mean, the message teachers, I mean, that, you know, they'll put a tablecloth on your back, stab you in the back, and sprinkle salt and pepper and eat your back all out. Now, I mean, and you know, and that's just human nature. That's the power of jealousy. Now, I mean, if you take and draw a picture of a smiling face, a frowning face, a drunk face with the wriggly eyes, the X's for the eyes. You could draw any emotion, but you can't draw a picture of an envious and jealous person, because jealousy doesn't show emotion. They could smile in your face and they backstab us. Know what I mean? So, you know, Master Farrakhan Muhammad, when you read prophecy, you're going to see you have to go through these prophecies. As an FOI and MGT, you're going to see your enemies in there. And you're going to see that just end in the prophecy. Those that wage war with the angels of the laws wage a war with the law. Watch how that unfolds. Okay, let us move on. All right. So Malcolm goes on in his biography and says this about Wallace on page 318. I had always had a high opinion of Wallace Muhammad's opinion. Know what I mean? Revelation chapter 13, verse 5 says, and there was given unto him a mouth. It was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. 36 months equals 3 years, plus 6 more months equals a total of 3.5 or 3.5 years, 42 months. From 1961 to 1965, Malcolm spoke good and evil. He was on the side of the messenger and against the messenger. He was neither this nor that. The records show that on June 25th, 1961, Malcolm X led the Nation of Islam Convention in Washington, D.C., which was attended by George Lincoln Rockwell and other members of the American Nazi Party. 42 months later, Malcolm X testified against Messenger Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam on January 29th, 1965, before the devils, in particular, the Attorney General of Chicago, Illinois. See, a lot of people don't understand. Malcolm testified against Elijah Muhammad, all right? So that move made the Supreme Secretary, John Ali, and the Supreme Captain in the FOI and the so-called Black Mafia, them like, oh, whoa, this joker, you know what I mean, he's snitching. And that caused a big rift. Now you got former ex-cons that's like, yo, whoa, he going somewhere else. And now you got COINTELPRO in the background, know what I mean, instigating it. So now you got real chaos going on, know what I mean, bitter or confusion. So to date, many of the followers of Messenger Elijah Muhammad are still deceived by the power of the first beast who rose from the sea, or the Nation of Islam. Many FOI and MGT place photos of Malcolm in their homes or wear his image on T-shirts. The reality is Malcolm died a hypocrite. Even if we try to rewrite his history, reality speaks for itself when it's written. The messenger says this, quote, there's a few hypocrites and enemies who would like to idolize him, talking about Malcolm X, as though that he was the savior of our people. The whole country here knows what Malcolm was teaching. The world knows what he was teaching. Who are you trying to put something over on? We know him better than you. I was his teacher, and he turned heels on me. Savior's Day, February 26, 1965, by Messenger Elijah Muhammad. Revelation chapter 13, verse 6 says again, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. Let us at this point echo the divine wisdom of only Messenger Elijah Muhammad regarding his view on Malcolm. He said this to Malcolm at Savior's Day. He turned then to make war against me. I looked at him and laughed. I said to Malcolm, I said, go up on the mountaintop, anywhere you want. Yell out anything you want to against me. I said, but Malcolm, I have the key. Savior's Day, February 26, 1965. Quote from Messenger Elijah Muhammad. The messenger goes on to say in The Fall of America on page 95, in 1972, The white man teaches you to worship Malcolm in order to lead you astray against me. Revelation chapter 13, verse 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. Malcolm went to war with the ministers of Messenger Elijah Muhammad, the saints, and the general believers. The FBI and CIA used Dr. Yakub's law to divide and rule and divide and confuse, to have their undercover agents to join on both sides and fan the flames of slander, envy, division, ignorance, and greed. Satan, the American government, turned brother against brother. And after the battle resulted in the murder of Malcolm, the devils came and picked up his body as the peacemaker. With one unified accord, the media, police, judge, district attorney, warden, and parole board was able to rule both sides. They cut short the progress of the Nation of Islam and the radical Malcolm X, whom they hated all along. The white race used the magnetic pull of the heart, or microphone, to pull Malcolm in. The messenger said, in Message to the Black Man on page 254, quote, "They are not to be killed. For Allah desires to make them examples for others by chastising them like a parent does a child. He chastises one with the strap to warn the other not to disobey. After divine chastisement of the hypocrites, they are turned into the doom of the real enemies, the devils." Message to the Black Man in America, page 254, by Messenger Elijah Muhammad. You cannot trust a person who is with you and then turns against you. Messenger Elijah Muhammad warned us, quote, "A hypocrite is a person who is disliked by everyone, whether it be a hypocritical wife, husband, parent, son, or daughter. The hypocrite is unwanted. You can never trust hypocrites. They are liars." Message to the Black Man in America, page 252. The messenger said, "I ran from hypocrites and enemies of mine for 7 long years on these terms. They ran me out of this state in 1935. I did not go and buy a pocket knife, nor did I go and buy a gun. I could have armed myself, but the law bids me not to arm myself, nor my followers to arm themselves. Therefore, I had to fly for my life. I stayed on the East Coast from 1935 to 1942, slipping in to see my family under the cover of darkness, to save my life from a sharp knife or from a hard bullet going through my heart or through my body. I did that from 1935 to 1942. On the eve of that, flying from my hypocrites and enemies, I was arrested by the FBI and sent to the federal penitentiary for 5 years. This gave me 12 long years away from my family and all. This I was suffering before Malcolm ever knew that I was on the scene. I suffered this, that I may be alive to help Malcolm when he returned from prison. I corresponded with him in prison. February 26, 1965, Savior's Day, by Messenger Elijah Muhammad. Revelation chapter 13, verse 9 says, "If any man have an ear, let him hear." I would like to read from page 20, a verse from St. Matthew's chapter 27 that says, "The governor asked and said unto them, Whither the twain will ye that I release unto you? They said, Barabbas. Pilate said unto them, What shall I do then with Jesus, which is called Christ? They all say unto him, Let him be crucified. And the governor said, Why? What evil have he done? But they cried out the more, saying, Let him be crucified." Bible, St. Matthew's chapter 27, verses 21 to 23. Brother ministers, please note the motive of the public. Quote, "For he knew that for envy they had delivered him." Bible, St. Matthew's chapter 27, verse number 18. The messenger says this about the power of Master Farrakhan Muhammad. Allah, God, in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad, to whom praises are due forever, has the power, and he is using his power on the wicked to bring them to their knees. Allah, God, is the greatest, and there is no equal to him. Allah, God, can take us by our own way of thinking and spin us as though we are a play toy. We cannot fight a successful fight against him. He is too powerful. He listens in on our thinking, and he is capable of making us to think and to do that which he desires to be done. The Fall of America, page 219, by Messenger Elijah Muhammad. Let us reflect on the wisdom of only Messenger Elijah Muhammad. Question: what about 4 wives? Messenger Elijah Muhammad's answer: the Savior taught me of the great misunderstanding regarding this subject in this country. The Savior told me, now this is about 4 wives in the Nation of Islam. The Savior told me that if the devil could get his hands on such information, he would use it to try to keep our people from Islam. Read the Holy Quran, chapter 4, verse 3 and verse 129. Say, O Allah, grant us and our wives the joys of our eyes in the world and in the hereafter, and make us leaders of those who guard against evil. The Field Journals Manual number 14 by Messenger Elijah Muhammad. The Holy Quran says this, chapter or Surah 66, ayats of verses 1 through 7. O Prophet, why dost thou forbid thyself that which Allah has made lawful for thee? Seekest thou to please thy wives? And Allah is forgiving, merciful. Allah indeed has sanctioned for you the expiation of your oaths, and Allah is your patron, and he is the knowing, the wise. And when the prophet confided in information to one of his wives, but when she informed others of it, and Allah informed him of it, he made known part of it and passed over part. So when he told her of it, she said, who informed thee of this? He said, the knowing, the one aware, informed me. If you both turn to Allah, then indeed your hearts are inclined to this. And if you back up one another against him, then surely Allah is his patron, and Jibril and the righteous believers, and the angels after that are the aiders. Maybe his Lord, if he divorce you, will give him in your place wives better than you, submissive, faithful, obedient, penitent, adorers, fasters, widows, and virgins. O you who believe, save yourselves and your families from a fire whose fuel is men and stones. Over it are angels, stern and strong. They do not disobey Allah in that which he commands them, but do as they are commanded. O you who disbelieve, make no excuses this day. You are rewarded only as you did. The Prohibition, Holy Quran, chapter 66, verses 1 through 7. Revelation chapter 13, verse 11 says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns, like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. Now this is the science of Imam Worthy Muhammad. The messenger says, in Revelation chapter 14, verses 6 and 7, the angel that the prophet saw fly in the midst of heaven is not to be taken as a spirit being, for Allah has taught me that this angel is a human being flying in an airplane with a mission to give the people the last warnings, which will be in small pamphlet form. Beast, that old serpent, the devil and Satan, Revelation chapter 18, verse 4, by Messenger Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm rose from the sea, water, and Wallace D rose from the land, earth. Just one angel was enough to place his feet on both the water and the land. Revelation chapter 10, verse 1 through 9 says, and I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head, and his face was as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. And he had in his hand a little book open, and he set his right foot upon the sea and his left foot on the earth, and cried with a loud voice, as when a lion roareth. And when he had cried, 7 thunders uttered their voices. And when the 7 thunders had uttered their voices, I was about to write, and I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, seal up those things which the 7 thunders uttered, and write them not. And the angel which I saw upon the sea and upon the earth lift up his hands to heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever and ever, who created heaven and the things that therein are, and the earth and the things that therein are, and the sea and the things which are therein, that there should be time no longer. But in the days of the voice of the 7th angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, as he have declared to his servants, the prophets. And the voice which I heard from heaven spake unto me again, and said, Go, and take the little book which is open in the hand of the angel, which standeth upon the sea and upon the earth. And I went unto the angel, and said unto him, Give me the little book. And he said unto me, Take it, and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey. Revelations chapter 10, verse 1 through 9. We're going to pause there. If you like to order the whole entire book, you could just download the whole book to read the whole context for yourself. But remember, the messenger's message will guide you through this age of mess. Assalamu alaikum, assalamu Allah, shalom, peace to the streets, family. Black love forever. Peace and blessings, family. If you would like to order a Supreme Angel Ankh hoodie, send $38 to NOIR Institute by Cash App, and we get the shirt mailed out to you within 72 hours. Peace.